Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Comey, thank you for being here today. Thank you for your service to our nation, and thank you for your families as well, your wives in particular. I think that this hearing is likely to attract as much attention and land with the same giant thud as the previous two hearings, because the American people are really focused on the direct and imminent threats to our nation. The pandemic continues to kill almost 1,000 Americans a day due to the cruel indifference and callous neglect of this administration. People are continuing to lose jobs. Millions are unemployed, and our small businesses are struggling. And here we are relitigating a controversy that is 4 years old, involving an investigation into Russian interference that occurred in 2016, when the really imminent and urgent threat is Russian interference ongoing at this very moment. The Security Center Director, William Evanina, warned publicly, quote, "Russia continues to spread disinformation in the U.S. that is designed to undermine our democracy." And I can say that the information we've received in briefings is absolutely chilling. We've received that information in confidential, classified briefings that I wish could be made known to the American public with the same kind of alacrity that documents have been declassified in this proceeding. The American people deserve to know about that threat, which is ongoing. And they also need to know about the threat of white supremacists. The current director of the FBI has said, again publicly, racially motivated violent extremists are a, quote, national threat priority. A national threat priority, a security danger to this country. They are the same white supremacists that the President of the United States last night said should stand by. That statement is one of the most abhorrent and horrifying in my lifetime. Mr. Comey, in your time as FBI director, did you see an uptick in white supremacist activities in the United States? And if so, with what kinds of consequences?
Yes, it is my recollection, and the consequences were potential acts of violence, intimidation of people of color, all the things that come with a criminal group with an aim that is at its heart evil racism.
Did you regard it as a national security threat in the way that Mr. Wray has articulated?
Yes, it was assigned to our counterterrorism division, which focuses on national security threats.
Do you think that more resources should be devoted to this threat?
Hard for me to answer since I've been gone now for close to 4 years. You can never have enough people with eyes on a problem that poses a violent threat the way these groups do.
I've introduced a measure called the No Hate Act, along with a number of my colleagues, Senators Durbin, Hirono, Warner, Kaine, Gillibrand, and others, and there's a measure on the House side as well that would seek to address this growing imminent threat of white supremacists, impact and violence, rather than telling them to stand by. And I commend you and the current director, Mr. Wray, for focusing on it. I want to turn to the statements that earlier you made in response to Senator Durbin's inquiry about the $421 million in debt that has been disclosed as owing by the president. You've done a number of national security background checks. And in the course of those background checks, my understanding is that a standard question relates to debt owed by individuals. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And the reason for that question is to indicate and disclose whether or not that individual has concealed any of that debt, correct?
Correct. One aspect of exploring their financial situation is that.
Why is it that those facts are important?
Because deciding whether someone is trustworthy with national security information involves understanding whether they're vulnerable to exploitation by an adversary, by a criminal group. So if somebody owes a lot of money and is trying to hide that, that allows adversaries to gain leverage over that person and maybe force them to do something they shouldn't do. It's a tool we use to try and recruit foreign government officials to become assets of the United States government. And so adversaries do the same to us.
So the President of the United States, of course, is not subject to any background security investigation, as most high-ranking officials are, but it is the concealment of that debt, not only its gargantuan size, but the hiding of it, that potentially makes him vulnerable to blackmail or extortion or other improper influence, correct?
That's right. But even if it were fully transparent, there'd still be a concern about vulnerability, that the adversary could try and cut a secret deal to reduce the debt, even if the public knows about the debt.
So any individual in a position of responsibility who is concealing a debt, as well as the debt itself, makes him or her more likely to be an asset under the influence or subject to extortion by a foreign government, correct?
It creates a serious counterintelligence concern that you'd want to address in deciding on a clearance suitability for an employee.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Comey.